and welcome to the Will Leitch Show. I am the aforementioned Will Leitch, and I thank you for spending part of your day with me. Today, show is about legacy. Okay, so today, Anthony Scaramucci is going to be on our show. Now, from all accounts, Anthony Scaramucci is a relatively charming dude. He was funny on Stephen Colbert's show last week. I enjoyed him on the Pardon My Take podcast, and all told, he is absolutely not wrong about Steve Bannon. But if I make it real for you a moment, I actually have no idea how to do this interview. On one hand, this is a sports show, and we can always talk sports. I can ask him about his Mets and his love for Mike Piazza, and we can even get political for a moment and talk about Colin Kaepernick, and I'm sure we will do all of that. But honestly, just having him here makes me nervous. Now, it's not because I'm scared of him or anything. All told, I probably could take him, or at least hold him off long enough until one of his producers pulled him off me. It's just that, all right, so I was watching Ken Burns' Vietnam documentary. It was breathtaking to watch how much the world was changing at that time and how many bad actors and venal creeps were a part of some truly heinous, evil acts and lied about it for the whole world to see. And I thought about how my parents were a part of that time. My father's a military man, and my mom was a young mother worried about what kind of world her babies would grow up in. I looked at some of the public figures of the time and how they handled themselves in the face of this unprecedented moral quandary, and to be honest, from decades later, I judged them. And I think about this constantly. Someday my little boys, currently 6 years old and 4 years old, are going to look back at this specific moment in American history when everything was bursting apart, and they're going to want to know, what did Daddy think about this? Did he stand up while it was happening, or did he cower? And this is a legitimate question because, frankly, generally speaking, I am a world-class cowerer. But I can't let them look back. My boys look back and say, when our country was at its most perilous place, my dad said nothing. When they look back, I need them to know where I stood. So, to have Anthony Scaramucci here, and not to at least confront him somehow, to just talk lightly about the Mets and slide by with a little, can't we all just get along platitudes, it feels inefficient, almost appeasing, like they're getting away with it. That said, what am I going to do here? There's not going to be a code red moment when Anthony breaks down and says, oh, Will, you're right, supporting Donald Trump has corrupted my soul. How can I show my face in public again? Now, Twitter might want me to scream at him or pee on his shoes, but I don't want to, and I don't know how that helps anything anyway. Isn't assuming the worst about people you don't actually know what got us into this mess in the first place? Besides, it's also not like I'm interviewing Mike Pence. Scaramucci is a bit player in this drama, a funny side character who seems to have a general good sense of humor about himself. Sort of the Kato Kalin of Donald Trump's daily trips to Mezzaluna. What does it accomplish to try to make him answer for everything? The dude is just a guy who talks on TV now like me. I'd only be going hard after him to make myself feel better and look like I was tough on TV. It would actually accomplish nothing. That said, I need my kids to know, we all feel so helpless. We're watching this happen every day. And I have a guy coming in who publicly defends it on a daily basis. He worked in that White House, however briefly. I can't let him just walk in here and not say something. We have to say something, right? I've not figured out the answers to any of these questions, and he's about to sit down here in about 5 minutes. So if this, what you watch next, goes poorly, I apologize. I am still trying to figure it out. These are the times that try men's souls. We are all just trying to figure it out as we go, and we're frankly just trying to survive it. Joining me now is the founder of Skybridge Capital, White House Director of Communications for 11 days, and beleaguered Mets fan. Please welcome Anthony Scaramucci.
All right, I get more clapping, more clapping.
Sir, thank you.
All right.
It's so hard to get good clapping.
It was like a Jeb Bush moment there.
Yeah.
Please clap. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll take it. He's got more votes than I've ever got in anything.
Beleaguered Met fan. That is really an understatement.
Yeah. Now, I find the Mets part the more beleaguered. By the way, I feel obliged to point out before we start, I know this has been an issue for you in the past. We are on the record. This is being recorded and distributed. Okay, so we're
good. Good. Thank you. I'll train my voice.
Okay.
Although I've never cursed in front of a camera. That's the interesting thing. I just got bagged by in my opinion, a dishonest journalist, but say, Libby.
Yeah, listen, for the record,
you seem very honest, though.
You can curse. I'm a Midwesterner. Midwesterners are honest people.
Yeah, that's a very good marketing brand for you people.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all the same. New
That
Yorkers,
and our
Midwesterners.
food is very bland.
I figured that out a long time ago.
So, okay, so I have to tell you, there's a lot going on in the world, and one of the things I'm always kind of fascinated by. I'm honored that you'd have. I'm glad you come on the show. I'm honored to have you on, because not only, of course, have you done a lot of things in your life, but particularly in the last couple of years, like you are on television a lot. You're on television a lot, and one of the things I find fascinating about kind of the way things are going in the world is television seems to be the major, like 3 years ago, you would say things about President Trump that were negative, and you weren't on television that much. You were on television occasionally. You had a show on CNBC, but it feels like one of the things that people are having a really hard time kind of wrapping their mind around, from my experience. I'm the father of 2 kids, and one of the things that people are having hard, it feels like the world's getting out of control a little bit. It feels like whatever we feared would happen after a very contentious presidential election, it feels even more unsettled than that. Do you think things are unsettled? Do you think things are, like this is part of the thing, right? Like, you once said about the president that when he did like the tweet about Kim Jong-il and the button, my button's bigger than your button, how he's just breaking people's balls and everything. But like, and I get it. Like, if he were my friend, I would totally find that funny.
I thought it was funny, actually.
But we don't find it funny.
But I think you're making a broader point where like the level of discourse now has gotten so rough, or there's been such a coarsening of the discourse, that you have to wonder how that's affecting the overall society. And so I think it's affecting the society negatively. I have said that the president should de-escalate his war with the media. It's unnecessary at this point.
Do you think it's justified?
Well, I do think it's justified in some aspects, because if you look at the Harvard study, and you can go back to that, 91% of the media is projected bias towards the president. So that's not me. That's not a partisan politician. That is the Harvard University saying, whoa, we studied this thing, and it's very, very negative against
Well, did they say bias, or did they say negative?
So subjectively, bias, negative. The filter.
I mean, there is a difference. Like, negative would be, like, if you hit me in the face, I tell you to stop it. No, that wouldn't make me biased.
Okay, so let me step back. You describe it to your viewers the way you want to, but what they did was they looked at the study. They said, okay, here are all the articles that have been written about him over a 6-month period of time. 91% of them were negative, and some of them were editorial, some of them were front page articles. And so the point being is that there appears to be a bias against him. Normally, however, and this is, to be fair, they're in the 60s. 60% of stuff is negative. Now, I get that. The commander-in-chief has to take flack from the Fourth Estate. I think that's a totally legitimate thing, and everybody that's ever been president has complained about the press, Republican and Democratic president. So I get that. But the war declaration is very bad. The coarsening of the language, the rough language on Twitter, the rough language to heads of state, the rough language inside the White House, the rough language that's permeating outside into the society, I think people are growing tired of it. And I think it's unnecessary, and it doesn't match his overall personality. And
it doesn't. So
all you're doing is getting a slight sliver of a window into him, into his toughness, but you're missing his compassion, you're missing his sense of humor, you're missing, even, believe it or not, his self-deprecation. And you may remember him at CPAC a few months ago. He was making fun of, I guess when the wind blows, he looks a little bit like Darth Vader after the helmet comes off.
The hair joke.
Yeah, and so he was making jokes about his hair. And so that's him. That's the guy that we remember. But I have a good relationship with Omarosa. I'll just give you an example. Okay.
Right.
And so Omarosa said to me, "Is this the guy you recognized from 5 or 10 years ago, or what is going on?" And so, and my answer to the question is that it's not exactly the same guy. The Donald Trump of New York was a little bit more relaxed. He was a little bit more self-deprecating, way more gregarious.
The guy that was on Trump, that guy was funny. Yeah, I mean, the guy on Stern, excuse me. The guy that was on Howard Stern's show. Funny, Duffer,
exactly.
Letterman,
So,
able to take a joke.
So what's happened is 91% of the pounding, when people say he doesn't have a tough skin, that's BS. He has a very tough skin. But what he is, he's a good counterpuncher. Okay, he is the blue robot in the Rock and Sock and Robots. He doesn't let up until your head pops, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you're hitting him, he'll hit you 15 times.
But these are television. Like, these are television. This makes for good television. It makes him a compelling television personality. But as someone that, again, is raising children in the world, to see this happening, to see the joke about the my button's bigger than your button, like that's a great, awesome New York tabloid kind of fun thing.
That was fun.
But as someone that's got two little kids that doesn't want the world to explode, it kind of freaks me out.
I think that's okay. I mean, you and I mean, I've got 5 kids, and I'm not an official scorer of decorum, trust me, because I'm a New Yorker and I'm prone to my own mistakes.
Of course. Midwesterners never curse, by the way. It's literally never happened.
So I've learned. And apparently 4-star U.S. Marines don't curse.
Never, ever.
I've apparently learned that recently. But here's what I would say is that if you're a student of these things, you sort of know right from wrong. You know, Potter Stewart once said about pornography in a Supreme Court case, says, "I'll know it when I see it." Okay, so you can call balls and strikes on something like this. And so the button thing, not in my opinion, it's sort of funny. You know, the guy's personality is sort of funny. The Mika's facelift thing, I don't know if you saw that, where he was complaining about the blood from her facelift. That is out of bounds. I mean, it's just not acceptable. Complaining about Maggie Haberman or a personal attack on a journalist when you got 55 million Twitter followers and you're the President of the United States, out of bounds. Because at the end of the day, there was an expression my grandfather used to talk about. You have to always remember where you came from. You know, we came from a humble blue-collar family, but you also have to remember where you've gotten to in life. And so, you know, he is the President of the United States. He's the leader of the free world. And there's certain things I just think are out of bounds. I don't mind saying it. He's probably super mad at me for saying it, but here's what I don't like. There's a group of people in his inner sanctum, if you say one syllable off of what you think he's thinking, then you think you're going to end up in the Dr. Evil, press the button, and you end up in Hades.
Right.
I don't mind that. Okay, I would rather be my own person, call balls and strikes as I see them, and tell the truth, but I'm a supporter of the president. It doesn't mean that if I disagree with him on the child separation policy, or I disagree with John Kelly on that, that doesn't mean I'm not a supporter of the president. I still support him.
Yeah, but see,
let's call balls and strikes the way we see him.
It's funny.
Let's make the process better.
We're using a lot of sports metaphors, and I think the idea of supporters is kind of fascinating because, to me, what I find fascinating about, like, look at what, like, 2 weeks ago, the United States had no interest in Canada. Like, no, people didn't hate Canada 2 weeks ago. There was no negative thoughts about Canada. But then Trump goes and says his stuff about Trudeau, how he's weak and so on. And all of a sudden that goes from like 94 to like 67. And like among Trump supporters or Republicans, whatever difference you want to make, it goes from 55 to like 91. Well, that's sports fan stuff. That's like a fight between the Mets and the Red Sox, right?
But that also proves what I'm saying, because what Teddy Roosevelt said about the presidency, that it's the bully pulpit, that you're going to command the news cycle. You can set the news cycle. You can control the narrative. Reagan did a great job of that. Clinton did an uneven job of it in the beginning, and then he did a really good job of it, and then he got caught in the Lewinsky scandal.
But you've supported Democrats and Republicans. You generally are a partisan guy, a bipartisan guy.
I'm a registered Republican, but I am a socially inclusive, fiscally responsible person. See, if you use the word liberal, that's bad. If I say I'm socially liberal, you tuned out half the country, because we spent $1 billion teaching people to hate the word liberal. If you say that you're a conservative, like I'm fiscally conservative, well, now you've tuned out the other half of the country.
But see, isn't that that's
socially
like
inclusive,
Mets,
fiscally
Yankees
responsible,
fans, right? Like that's a sports thing. The idea that like if a Mets fan says I like Derek Jeter, no one considers him a Mets fan anymore. Yeah. Like, isn't that part of the problem too? But someone that works in television and is a part of this, the idea that, again, that we're taping this on the day that the Trump may or may not have signed the executive order that made. Yeah, he signed it. He signed it, though.
Thank God.
Well, he did say he couldn't sign it, and then he did. But I think it's a side point. The idea that if you would have told people 2 years ago that Republicans, that 55% of them would support separating families from at the border, they would have been like, that's insane. Why would children go to children's camp? But because now we're also sports fan oriented, or like we're team Trump, or we're team Hillary, or we're team Bernie. Like, but I have to say, I feel like Trump has a lot to answer for with that, right? Like the idea of you're with me or against me. I punch back and I counterpunch. Like, that's total sports stuff, but that's not the way the world works. Sports is like a game where there's a winner and a loser.
That's why I'm totally comfortable in my own skin in being able to call the balls and strikes here a little bit differently. I can still wear a jersey that's related to Trump, but I can also say, wait a minute.
Should we even have jerseys for this, though?
I don't think so, but here's what I would say, okay? If you're a corporate leader and you're sitting with me, boy, you better not be a yes person, because I got to get my company to double in size over the next 5 years, and I don't need yes people. I need people that are going to help me understand what the best
Do you
strategy
think he has yes people?
I do. I think he's surrounded by yes people. And I think that they're all sycophants and they're all afraid of him. And they all like the power of their job and driving around in the limousines. And so they're afraid of him. Maybe Scott Pruitt is the only one that's not afraid of him. He's just doing whatever he wants.
Just like,
God bless Scott Pruitt.
I don't know if I go that far.
But here's what I would say. God, I mean, he's just doing whatever
But
he wants.
right.
That's the point. Here's what I say. At the end of the day, if you, Lehman Brothers died on September the 15th, 2008. So we're about to hit the 10th anniversary of its death. I was with one of the senior partners there this morning, and I said, the guy's surrounded by sycophants. He's got to get some real people in there that are confident people that are going to tell him the truth. And he said, yeah, I wish Dick Fold had done that. Right. And so what ends up happening is you're sitting there, you've amassed power, you're riding back and forth to work in this isolation, and then you're getting all these confirmed biases in your own echo chamber. And so,
but you're still Team Trump. You'll still go out and support.
Yeah,
him
I'm very.
I see you on television all the time
Listen,
supporting him.
I'm very supportive of the president. I think the president will win an electoral landslide victory next time. He's got so many things going right. Why would you allow something like this, the child separation policy, to detract from the rigorous agenda that you put forth on the economy, global prosperity? I think you could handle the trade situation better in terms of your rhetoric, but you're absolutely right on trade. If you really understand the historical trade situation of the United States and the Western powers and China.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to our frivolous questions of dubious import because we've solved all of the world's problems here.
We're not going to solve them today, but we need to solve them.
Okay, I got some frivolous questions. Are you going to tell
everybody what's on your lapel?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'd like to thank you for being the only person that noticed this. The entire staff did not realize. I got Robert Mueller over here.
So either he
trying to make a difference.
Hates Robert Mueller and he wants his head on a spike.
That's exactly it.
Pin, or he loves Robert Mueller.
I don't love Robert Mueller.
He's waiting for Mueller time. He's waiting for Mueller time.
I just want things to be different. Frivolous questions of dubious import. Who's having a worse year, Jose Reyes or Paul Manafort?
Wow. I would say Paul's having a really bad year. I think Jose is past his sell-by date as a player. He obviously was a great Met, and he won the batting title that last year he was with us before he came back to us. But I think it's time to move on, and I wish Paul well.
You like Mike Piazza. You bought his jersey. Would you be mad if he had used steroids? If you found out that he had used steroids, would you not like Mike Piazza anymore?
No, I think realistically that was the steroid era, and so it would be hard for me to believe that a lot of these players that supposedly didn't use steroids, they may have actually used them. In Mike's case, I'd take him at his word that he didn't. But I do think that was the steroid era, and I think that the explosion of that baseball off the bat for guys like McGuire and Sammy Sosa, et cetera, it's not surprising to me. And I think the kid from the A's that wrote the book, Jose Canseco, I think he told the truth. Ultimately, go back to the book and read through the book, and I think he told the truth about it.
Nobody wanted to hear it at the time at all.
But here's the thing, okay? That's the same thing in Washington today, okay? Because it's just like A Few Good Men. Remember the scene with Jack Nicholson? Mm-hmm. You say you want the truth, but nobody really does want the truth. Okay, and so that's what happens.
But then he was like admitting a crime when Jack Nicholson. I always forget that. At the end of that, he actually does admit a crime.
Okay, but people don't like the truth. So I mean, Jose Canseco's telling everybody the truth. Everyone's aghast. Everyone's in denial. Turns out everything he said in the book was true.
So, but are you morally offended by, does it bother you if a player uses steroids? Do you think it's fundamentally unfair or no?
I think that I'm not a sanctimonious, righteous person.
Right.
Okay, obviously it's the wrong thing to do. And so we have to think really more about the society because you're not just in a baseball slot. Look at what happened with leverage. Leverage in the banking system was like the form of steroids for banking. Okay, so these guys ran amok in banking. They did the same. So you got a group of bankers that are hitting the baseball guys for using steroids, and they're leveraged 17-1 on their balance sheet about to go.
And that actually affects us.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to be overly sanctimonious. I think what you have to do is focus on yourself. Get up in the morning, try to do the right thing today, and then when you go to bed at night, say, okay, what am I going to do next day so that I can do the right thing or be a good example for my kids? And by the way, I'm far from perfect. I've got a whole phone book of mistakes that I've made in my life, and probably 5 of those phone books I made in the White House over 11 days.
That's a
what am I
good ratio.
do? I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm not going to be one of those righteous referees in life.
Right. Do you think Stephen Miller, who went to Duke, has ever dribbled a basketball?
The policy guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went to Duke,
Yeah.
so he's
Has
probably...
he ever dribbled a basketball?
He doesn't look like a guy that...
He doesn't look like he has, but I'm going to take the under on it and say yes.
Yes, just once, just like accidentally someone
Yeah, I think he has.
threw it at him and
he
he,
has.
and he dropped
Be
it.
careful. Never underestimate these people. You know, people don't. I'm looking.
I do not underestimate that guy.
I'm a little short and much wider Italian than I was when I was growing up. I mean, I'm short and wide now, but I can hit the outside shot.
Hit the outside shot.
You ask my kids once I'm warmed up, okay, and I can get a little smack talk in the game, and I start hitting that outside shot. Look out.
We could always, all of us could beat Stephen Miller. I don't think there's any question about that. You have said that Trump is a thoughtful, studious person. Can you just give me like an example? Just an example of like one thoughtful, studious thing that you've physically seen him do.
Okay, reads every day. Reads way more than the people want to give him credit for. On situations
I mean, that's a smart thing, but
okay,
what's a...
Hold on a second. When you say on situations...
Like thoughtful.
Yeah,
like
so
there's a fellow
situations
citizen in the world.
Situations like Syria, situations like North Korea, he always comes up with the more temperate response. He always comes up with the, he's got a little bit of combustion to the externality of his personality, but when he's in the inner sanctum and he's making a decision, he's way more temperate. And
How about you've known him as a person for a long time. Like as a person, like as a human being.
Yeah.
Like what's a thoughtful thing you've seen him do to a fellow citizen?
I happen to like the guy.
I know, that's why I'm asking. So what's he done?
I would say.
I haven't seen. I've just not seen it because I don't know him.
He's been a big funder of veterans issues.
Right.
A couple of years ago, before he ran for president, he was honored by the U.S. Marine Veterans Association. I think he gave a ton of money to them. He gave a great speech that night.
Does he hold the door for people when they're coming into the
Does he hold the door?
Does he carry groceries? I'm just looking for is he nice to the staff?
Nice to the staff.
Nice to the staff.
No question.
Okay.
I mean, his staff.
I'll take nice to the staff.
His staff loves him.
You said once that Trump
Secret Service likes him.
You said they better. By the way, that's their job. They better. You said that Trump is the least racist person ever.
100%.
Who's the second least racist person?
Well, I mean, I would like to think that I'm up there.
You're
but
up there?
I would think that my Uncle Sal it's probably the least racist person I met. My Uncle Sal DeFeo, who ran a motorcycle shop, he didn't care if you were black, white, brown, yellow, green, didn't care your sexual orientation. If you were a good employee, he wanted you in the shop. And he did that in the 1950s and 60s.
Right,
so
during a hard time to do it.
So I love him for it, yeah. I think he's probably the second
least.
Yeah. Maybe
Good try,
the
Sal.
color orange makes you like less racist. I think Rusty Staub was obviously not a racist either.
Right.
Maybe it's the orange color that affects you. Makes you less racially charged.
I find that unlikely, but maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think the president watches too much television? Just generally speaking, do you think he watches too much television?
No, I don't think he watches too much television.
When you're on television, do you feel like he's watching
what's
you?
in his hand there is actually a DirecTV remote.
Yeah,
and that's
for television.
That right there is the president's study, and then on the lower part of that picture is his chair, and across from him, you can see in the reflection there is a DirecTV. It's a 75.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
It's a 75-inch Sharp there, and no, I don't think he watches too much TV. I think he's a good assimilator of information. He probably watches the A block of most of those talk shows to get a sense for what's going on out there.
Because it's weird to see sometimes, I don't know if I've seen you do this, but I saw, like Ann Coulter the other day seemed to pause in the middle of her segment and look at the camera and seem to be speaking specifically to the president. And I've seen people do that on like Fox and Friends. Is that good? Like, do you think that's a good, like, as someone you're good on television, I've seen you on television, you're definitely a good communicator on that. But is that good that we actually, people feel comfortable enough that they just look in the camera and say, here's what you should do, rather than like in a briefing room or something?
Well, okay, so I mean, let me put it to you this way. People have been doing that forever. I think what you're saying is it's more blatant in this situation. And so is the blatancy of it.
Are they wrong to do that? Do you think they're kidding themselves that they're actually getting through to him?
I don't know if they're right or wrong. I don't know if I get through the president when I'm speaking on television or not. I talk to him infrequently. Maybe I've talked to him 15 times since I've been fired. He doesn't like my point of view. I mean, he's been, if I say to him, we got to end the war declaration on the media, he may call me and say, stop saying that. I don't like you saying that.
Do you think he thinks you're disloyal for doing that?
I don't care.
I know, but do you think that he thinks that?
So if he does, he may. I mean, let me put it this way: the circle of sycophants probably think that, geez, I better not say anything that's outside of like this hash mark, if you will. Otherwise, the president will think I'm disloyal. That's a terrible mistake. When you're running an organization, your political organization, a business, this show, people that are telling you the truth about how to improve the show will,
Right.
even if you don't like it, that doesn't make them disloyal. We read in the first grade, the emperor has no clothes. Right. If someone has no clothes on, you say, excuse me, you got no clothes on. As an example, I'm going to give you some constructive feedback. I'm not in love with the Robert Miller.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming. For the record, my producers lied.
It could be scary to people like me.
Well, but it speaks well to you that you hung in after.
I think one of the mistakes I made in the White House, I probably shouldn't have started the first day with a hockey mask and a chainsaw.
In retrospect,
right, in retrospect, I should have left the chainsaw and the hockey mask.
I don't even. Yeah, that would have scared you less or more, I suppose. A couple more things. You said that you have seen Trump throw a dead spiral. This is the first question. Dead spiral through a tire.
Ask Jim Kelly from the Buffalo Bills.
So you literally have seen, like you physically saw him do it.
Ask Jim Kelly. I did. Yeah.
How far away was the tire?
Probably like, not super far.
Right.
15 yards.
15 yards is a substantial amount of time.
45 feet.
And dead spiral, right through the tire.
Yeah, this guy's a great athlete. Okay, now people don't like me saying that. That's fine. I don't care. I'll tell you the truth.
Like he was a great athlete, or he is currently
well, he's 72 years old and
Right.
he still hit the golf ball.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying he's playing basketball or
Right.
throwing a football.
I don't know.
But at 72 years old, ask Andrew Giuliani. Andrew Giuliani is like a near golf pro. He played at the Duke golf team. He says the president can bomb the ball.
Do you think maybe they say that because he owns the course?
Maybe. Okay. I don't think so, though, because here's the thing, okay? Madison Square Garden, late 90s. Right. He's out there with a top coat. You can ask Keith Schiller, his bodyguard. He hit a foul shot from the foul line with the top coat on. Okay, and so look, people don't like me saying that.
Oh,
very sorry.
I don't care.
That's it. But my point of me saying that is this is not a choke artist. Okay, this guy will hit the putt in the championship round. This guy was punching through the Clinton establishment, the Republican establishment, the Democratic establishment, the cognoscente of political consultants and all of the doubters and haters. He punched right through them, and he won the American presidency after 17 short months of being a politician. So if people want to underestimate him, they can dislike him.
Clearly, he was underestimated.
I would say don't underestimate him.
I think that's true.
If you're his political adversary, try to avoid Trump derangement syndrome, because if you got Trump derangement syndrome, you're playing right into his hands. The minute you strike the match and set your own hair on fire, he's got you in the corner. You're dead. Because what ends up happening is you expose your biases so much to the American people that they get completely turned off.
Is there something strange about the fact that everyone that, like you talk about sycophants with Trump, there seem to be a lot of people, like, it's not just that Trump obviously has had a successful life. Like he's president of the United States. He's a very famous guy.
Star,
he's done all these things.
Media mogul,
but it's still
real estate
weird
mogul.
that like everybody near him, like usually people in that situation, that like there are people close to them will find something to make fun of them for. Will find like a little thing that they dig at them, like whether it was George W. Bush was a bad golfer or Barack Obama had a bad jump shot or something. I never
he couldn't throw out a first pitch. Remember?
Yeah, he had the dad jeans. Yeah, that was bad.
He looked unathletic.
But it's weird that like it worries me a little bit that everyone that's close to Trump all walk away saying things like, he is the best athlete. He throws a dead spiral. He's even when doctors are saying that.
I'm telling you the things I didn't like. I know. I'm pretty even.
I'm not accusing you of it, but is it just
de-escalate the war in the
generally
media,
speaking?
drop some of the unnecessary ad hominem attacks on Twitter. Try to work on more civility of the language, which will help the country. I'm being very honest.
Oh, I'm not claiming. Yeah, go ahead.
But let me just say this.
Yes,
I think it's important. About 3, 4, 5 years ago, you can Google it. I can't remember when. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, hosted an event on Comedy Central where Trump was roasted.
Yes, I've seen it.
They paid him some dough for that, and they eviscerated him. It was actually very, very funny. And that's the Trump I love. Okay, that's the guy that's got to be in the White House, that can take that sort of heat, take the gas and gasoline verbally that's being thrown on him, matches being struck everywhere.
But he clearly couldn't do it when Seth Meyers
laugh at all.
Like Seth Meyers, it seemed when Seth Meyers did it, seemed to like enrage him even more. Like that's do you agree with the theory that
Oh, you're talking about the White House correspondent?
Yeah, later.
Yeah,
right,
okay, that's different from Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
Well, yeah, I think the White House Correspondents' Dinner caught him off guard. I was at the dinner that night. I wasn't sitting that close to him, although I sat literally at the next table over in 2015, the year before he started running for president. And I think that really upset him. Yeah. I think at the end of the day...
But that's not running with the punches, right?
Okay, but you see, and I agree with that, but here's the thing. It upset him, and people say, well, that's the reason why he ran for president and blah, 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 but that's actually not, because In 2012, he didn't run for president. He could have declared his candidacy for the presidency in June of. It would have been equivalent June of 2011. It's like June of 2015, but he didn't. He thought Governor Romney was going to do a good job as president. He thought he was a good guy. When Governor Romney didn't win, I remember his frustration that night in Boston. He was with us in Boston.
So you were with him that night?
I was with President Trump, then Mr. Trump, in Boston during the Mitt Romney concession party. We can't call it a victory party, but we were setting up like that. And he flew back early to New York in great frustration. And then by the first quarter of 2015, he was telling his friends that he was going to run for president. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't believe him at the time. But my point is that I don't think that is what made him run. I think he looked around, and this is sort of something I really believe, and someone will have to ask him about this. I think Melania encouraged him to run. Melania said, hey, you're as good.
That's surprising.
You're as good as any of these guys. Give it a shot. He said it a few times on the campaign trail.
Okay, all right. Okay, we have a little game. A game called, they're going to test you're a loquacious man. So this game is about whom is the mooch speaking.
Go ahead.
About whom is the mooch speaking. We're going to have quotes for your bets. I want to see if you can remember who you said this about.
All right, go ahead. This will be fun.
Question number one. This guy is a bad dude. Fear and intimidation don't work in a civilian organization.
John Kelly.
John Kelly, that's correct.
That's good. Yeah, totally him.
Number two, he is the creature. Do you like him, or do you really say can't stand him?
I mean, how could I like the guy? Okay, he gave me 2 minutes. He fired me after a minute and a half. I didn't even know who the guy was. And then he set out and totally disrupted the White House. And he doesn't like the president. Let's just be honest about it.
But I thought he was followed by. Is he the one non-sycophant? Wasn't one of the reason he was there to kind of elbow out?
I have no idea. I think he's just done a really bad job of. I would submit to you. I'd ask you a rhetorical question, and you don't have to wait for the answer. But who did he bring into the White House? Who did he recruit to come work for him inside the White House? Nobody. Okay, so it just tells you a lot about this guy's personality. Okay, but go to the next guy. Go ahead.
He is the creature of the Black Lagoon.
That would be Steve Bannon.
Yeah, that's the Bannon quote we're going with because it's a family show.
I would call him Adolf Bannon.
Adolf Bannon? Okay, you got any more?
Yeah. Hobo Bannon. And white, ethnocentrist, racist Bannon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a very bad guy. Okay, go to the next
The
guy.
creature of the Black Lagoon doesn't seem bad. Yeah. He will, number three,
creature.
He will win the nomination by staying classy. People will respond positively to his record shortly.
Did I say that about Trump?
No.
Or who did I say?
Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush was the person who said that about.
All right. Well, yeah, he's a classy guy.
Yeah.
But Jeb wasn't the right politician for that time. There was a tremendous amount of angst in the country. Jeb would have been a great presidential candidate in the mid-'90s.
4, he's a hack politician. Are you a Democratic client? There you go. For Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren.
What's great is I said that like 3 or 4 years ago. It comes up almost every interview.
But you said that, it's funny because you said that after 2012 where you had spent watching the election.
No. I said that after he was attacking the hedge fund industry. That's
what. Yeah, but that was after you were clearly friends. You spent 2012.
You can still be friends and fight. I mean, I'm a New Yorker, right? You lived here for a little while, right?
Yeah, 13 years.
We like punching it out a little bit and still loving on each other, okay?
We cower.
He was saying nasty things about the hedge fund industry, so I hit him back. But he started that fight. I didn't start that fight.
Last question on this one, and then we'll close. The pain you inflict is unbearable. The pain you inflict is unbearable.
I said that about somebody?
You said that about the New York Mets.
Oh, did I? Okay.
So, which I don't think you're the first person to ever say that about the Mets.
I thought you meant it was like a person.
I know that was a
Mr. Met. Don't take that personally. But I mean,
he looks very angry.
Look, I'm a diehard, unconditional, loyal Met fan. But the pain is
it's a rough year.
The pain is
it's
unbearable.
a rough year. Okay, my last question. I'm going to close with this before we go.
Yeah.
I watched. My parents are. My father was a soldier, was a military man during Vietnam, and I watched the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary. Have you seen the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary?
Parts of it. I haven't seen all of it.
And one of the things I found myself while watching it was watching there were people who were wrong about the war and that were wrong about. Or thought they were right and felt it was good to lie to the public about it, or sort of that sort of thing. And I found myself watching. This is before I was born. I was born in 1975. So I found myself watching it and thinking, "Wow, what were my parents doing during this time? What were they thinking to be a part of this very crazy moment in American history? And 2, what are the families of the people that I'm watching now, who are responsible for this war, responsible for this thing?" So it made me very obsessed with the idea that now.
Did you see The Fog of War? By
Robert McNamara, absolutely.
That I saw. Yeah,
and that's Errol Morris, I believe. Yeah,
yes.
and And so I found myself watching it, thinking a lot about now, like whatever stance, whatever side of the political spectrum we're on, or if there even are sides on the political spectrum anymore. Clearly this is a historic time. Like things are happening, whether you like them or whether you don't like them, things are certainly happening. And so therefore I find myself as someday my kids are going to look back. My kids are going to look back and say, what was Dad doing during this particular time? Now, I've enjoyed talking to you, and one of the things you talked about I thought was great was the idea that you disagree with Trump on things and be able to say them. That said, I think that you defend Trump, you're clearly connected to Trump, right? You're connected to Trump. Like when I say, hey, Anthony Scaramucci's on the show today, they'll be like, oh yeah, the mooch, and they do all that. But also it's Trump.
Well, you get haters and they.
Of course. But you're connected to the guy. Is the point?
I get it.
Do you worry sometimes because now you're not in the White House now. You don't have any control over stuff now, and so you see stuff. You see him surrounded by sycophants, and you see things like the family separation thing that you are against and you have no control over, but are landing on Trump and Trump is responsible for. Do you worry if this goes wrong that that's something that you have kids and you're going to have grandkids and they're going to look back and realize, oh, this guy, I was connected to that.
Okay, so listen, it's a great point because there's a lot of the anti-Trump people say, and I watch Morning Joe or sometimes I call it morning eating crow when I get mad at the TV. But when I'm sitting there and I get the whole anti-Trump narrative that character-filled people will stand up to this ignominy and all this other stuff. But here's the point. The United States is at an inflection point because we're fracturing. The social fabric of the United States is fracturing because the haves are separating very quickly from the have-nots. We have allowed our infrastructure to crumble. We have created an uneven K through 12 educational system at the public level. And whether the establishment wants to hear this or not, the establishment has effectively failed the civilization. They've curried favor with each other. They're the Demo-publicans or the Republicrats, and they sit in the soup of the swamp.
Is that the deep state idea?
It's not a deep state. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
But what I'm basically saying is, here are the incentives. Come to Washington. There's $10 billion worth of lobbying going on. Here are the incentives. Oh, by the way, you have to stay in power, so you have to raise money. These are the people that are going to help you. These are the rules. Play by the rules, you're in. Not play by the rules, you're going to get oppoed, and we're going to punch so hard to try to get you out. That would be me.
Right.
They want to punch so hard to get Trump out. But if you're in and you play by our rules and you curry our favor, then this is what we're going to do for each other. And then what happens is you get $22 trillion of debt later, 1 million people killed in the Middle East, 17 and a half years worth of wars. Mistakes as bad as the Vietnam War, if not worse.
Right.
And you're sitting here now, if you're the average American making $51,000 a year, you're saying, okay, this thing is not working. I got to get this thing fixed. So when he descends on Washington to try to fix it, he's an agent of change. Now, he may not be doing everything right, but he's got some things roughly right. The economy's doing a little bit better. Those people feel more empowered. They feel like they have a voice and an advocacy. And I'll leave you with this one last thought. If we don't fix this problem, whether it's Donald J. Trump, establishment Republicans, establishment Democrats, or a new billionaire on the scene, or just somebody unexpected, doesn't come in and try to fix the problem and heal the nation, I think it'll be a very big problem for us. The last time this happened was during the Roosevelt era, the Teddy Roosevelt era. The robber barons were splitting the country. There was a Gilded Age. We had to enforce the Sherman antitrust laws. We had to have building and housing codes here in Lower Manhattan. We had to do certain things to protect workers, to protect immigrants, to protect the society so that everybody felt that they had an aspirational chance in the society. So for me, Trump's doing some things really right. He's doing a few things wrong, but by and large, he's getting it right. And I have no problem calling balls and strikes on him when he's doing things wrong.
And if things go wrong, do you have enough distance if things go wrong?
Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You'll say to me that history will judge me poorly because Trump will have done something wrong.
I'm asking, you don't care? That's not something you worry about?
Let me tell you something. From a period of 1850 to 2150, that period of time, that 300-year period of time, there's only going to be one person remembered, and it's not going to be Donald Trump. And it's not going to be you or me or Robert Mueller or your unicorn.
It might be.
It's going to be one person.
It might be.
It's not going to be you, bro. The only one person. Neil Armstrong. That's it. Because
that's an okay way to be remembered.
10,000 years from now, nobody remembers any of the pharaohs other than Ramses because of you runner and that nonsense. Nobody remembers anybody. Julius Caesar was made famous by a great PR guy in the 1500s known as William Shakespeare. Other than that, nobody remembers any of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Nobody. And what did Charles de Gaulle say? There's graveyards loaded with indispensable men. And he should have said men and women, but he was politically incorrect.
Right.
So let's just say what he said: indispensable men. So I'll be long dead. No one will remember me. No one's going to remember you. I'm doing the best I can on the planet right now. And what I would tell you about raising kids, which I've tried to do for my kids, actions speak louder than words. Okay, and so I'm trying to live a good life, trying to be honest. I'm trying to do the right thing. And even when I was in the White House, I was trying to do the right thing. And so, you know, the fact that I didn't last in the White House, I made a lot of mistakes, which I'm willing to accept and admit. But at the end of the day, I thought I was very well intentioned. I thought I really went to the White House because I've lived an improbable life. I've lived a very large aspect of the American dream, from a blue-collar family to where I am today. And I want that to happen for other people. And so I was okay with making the financial sacrifice to move myself down to Washington to try to make things work. Priebus and Bannon, I was supposed to be the president's OPL director. Yeah. They blocked me. That was that political intrigue and that shenanigans that people hate about Washington.
Right. So, but that's what I thought. Bannon was going to change that.
He's the worst. I mean, he is actually a cuck of the establishment.
That's
Steve Bannon is a Steve Bannon is a very, very bad guy. And I'll debate him anytime, any place. Maybe you can bite him on your show. I'd love to have a live televised debate, me and Steve Bannon.
I would
because he's an incredibly bad guy. He has the wrong message for America. He's the wrong voice in America. And he's missing so much of the fabric of what makes us such a great nation.
All right, well, so look for our next episode with Steve Bannon. We'll have him on. Immediately, he will not look nearly as sharp. Sir,
yeah,
Anthony Scaramucci, thank you very much.
Come on with the hobo look.
Yeah. We've had some hobos on the show, to be very clear.
He'll wear a Darth Vader pin.
Yeah. Anthony Scaramucci, thank you very much for your time. I don't think we're going to see eye and eye on a lot of things, but I appreciate you coming in.
Also, you got me at a much lower position than you, too. You're like the Bill O'Reilly of over-the-top television. Okay?
It's part of my rider. Thank you.
Next time, I'm calling for phone books, please.
Phone books, please. Thank you for watching the Will Leitch Show. Come back to SI.com or wherever your Will Leitches and your Anthony Scaramucci's are sold.
Okay, great to be here.